The atmosphere inside the grand Oakland study of our sprawling family estate felt unusually rigid, almost ceremonial, as my parents and siblings assembled around the polished vintage oak table. Mom had called this gathering an essential financial summit, her tone suggesting it was a matter of survival rather than simple family business. The golden light of late afternoon filtered through the tall, arching windows, warming the shelves lined with leather-bound volumes and the walls adorned with classic oil portraits. Each portrait seemed to silently remind us of our family's long-standing wealth, prestige, and carefully curated heritage. Adrian, my brother, reclined casually in his chair, radiating the confidence of someone freshly returned from an expensive, high-stakes business trip to London. His sharp, custom-tailored suit looked like it belonged more in a corporate boardroom than in our family home. Lila, my sister, could hardly sit still. She fidgeted with her gleaming handbag and flicked her eyes down to her designer watch for the third time in less than 5 minutes, as though she had more important engagements awaiting her. Meanwhile, I positioned myself deliberately at the far end of the table, the distance between us feeling both physical and symbolic. I was dressed in my usual sweater and jeans, simple, comfortable, intentionally understated against the parade of luxury clothing and accessories that my family seemed to treat as a uniform. At 28, I was very clearly the outlier in the Thompson clan, having chosen to build a career running a nonprofit rather than chasing the high-status paths of corporate law, finance, or executive leadership that my siblings, and by extension my parents, so adored. Dad cleared his throat in a way that signaled weighty matters, the kind of tone he reserved for the moments he wanted everyone's full attention. "Before we begin," he said, voice thick with authority, "I want to make sure each of you understands that today's discussion is about fiscal discipline and securing our family's financial stability for generations to come." Mom, sitting beside him with an air of businesslike seriousness, spread several neat stacks of financial reports across the gleaming surface of the table. "We've reviewed the yearly family support costs," she began, her voice clipped and professional, "and it's become clear that major adjustments must be made. The system we have in place simply isn't sustainable." Adrian leaned forward, hands folded like a seasoned executive delivering a boardroom pitch. "The numbers don't lie. The family's financial aid expenses have ballooned, and without accountability, this model won't last. Certain people need to start demonstrating genuine gratitude and responsibility for the support they've received." Lila's gaze drifted toward me before she added with a pointed edge, "Some people need to learn to take accountability." I stayed silent, though I knew full well I was the intended target. My nonprofit salary of $45,000 painted me as the weakest link, the dependent sibling, the one draining resources. What none of them realized was that my seemingly modest lifestyle wasn't born out of lack or desperation. It was deliberate, a cover for something much larger, much more complex, and legally intricate than they had ever suspected. Dad pressed on, adjusting his glasses as he studied his notes. "Our emergency fund is being depleted at an alarming rate. Too many requests for rent coverage, car repairs, sudden medical costs, even routine everyday expenses. This pattern of reliance must end." Mom's expression hardened, and she fixed her gaze squarely on me. "Certain members of this family have grown entirely too comfortable treating the family's resources as a personal safety net instead of pursuing real independence and ambition." Her words lingered in the air like the faint but suffocating smell of an expensive perfume, impossible to ignore. The accusation wasn't subtle, it was crafted with precision. Adrian's voice carried a patronizing calm as he added, "Your nonprofit work may sound noble in theory, Sophie, but in practice it isn't sustainable for someone your age. You need a career path that provides you with an actual adult lifestyle." Lila leaned in eagerly, as though rehearsed. "And these constant requests for support need to stop. It's enabling behavior, prevents growth and maturity." As they unfolded their so-called intervention with the precision of a strategic campaign, detailing plans to overhaul my supposed financial missteps, I kept my focus on my plate, picking at a salad and doing my best to maintain a neutral expression. Their irony wasn't lost on me. If only they knew the real setup. Mom straightened her posture as if announcing a final decree. "Effective immediately," she declared. "No more financial aid for anything outside of genuine emergencies. No rent subsidies. No car repair allowances. No discretionary spending support." Her words reverberated through the ornate study, bouncing off the towering shelves and glimmering oil paintings of ancestors who had built our legacy. Dad added another layer, reviewing a document with solemn authority. From this point forward, trust distributions will require documented need and approved budgets. There will be no more automatic monthly stipends with no oversight. We are not your personal ATM. Mom punctuated the statement with a sharp, "It's time to sink or swim like every other adult in the real world." Just then, my phone buzzed quietly against the polished wood surface. I glanced at the screen, an email notification from Whitman Trust Management. The message was short but heavy with meaning. Allowance approvals pending. Adrian Thompson, $15,000. Lila Thompson, $12,000. Margaret Reynolds, $8,000. Victor Reynolds, $18,000. Please confirm by 5 p.m. today. I looked up at my family, their faces still filled with the smug certainty of their so-called tough love intervention, completely oblivious to the irony unfolding in my hands. Dad, with deliberate gravity, asked, "Do you have anything to say about these new financial terms?" He clearly expected gratitude for their lesson. I gave a faint, almost amused smile as my fingers typed a single word across each request. Denied. Then I set the phone down, screen face down, and spoke evenly. Actually, there seems to be a significant misunderstanding about the way our family's finances are structured. Before anyone could respond to my remark, the heavy oak door to the study swung open. In stepped a poised woman dressed immaculately in a sleek, tailored business suit, her leather briefcase clasped firmly in one hand. She wore the expression of someone keenly aware she was intruding but too bound by duty to delay. "Miss Thompson," she said with practiced professionalism, "I'm Olivia Carter from Whitman Trust Management. I apologize for interrupting your family meeting, but your signature is urgently required on some quarterly trust documents." The words immediately unsettled the room. Confusion spread among my family as Patricia's eyes landed on me and not on my father, who instinctively rose from his seat, ready to receive the papers with the authority he had always wielded in financial matters. "I'm sorry," Dad said firmly, his tone asserting the authority of decades. "I handle all trust matters for this family. Any documents should come directly to me." Patricia blinked in surprise, looking genuinely taken aback by his assumption. "I'm afraid there's been a misunderstanding, Mr. Thompson," she said evenly. "Sophie has been the primary trustee and financial overseer of the family trust since her 25th birthday. All distribution decisions and account management fall under her authority." The silence that followed was broken only by the faint ticking of the antique grandfather clock standing tall in the corner. My father's certainty fractured in an instant. "That's impossible," Adrian blurted, his voice wavering with disbelief. "Sophie runs a nonprofit. She doesn't have the expertise or the legal power to manage a trust of this scale." Patricia, unfazed, placed her briefcase on the table and withdrew a neat stack of documents. "In fact, Miss Thompson earned her financial planning certification and trust administration credentials 3 years ago. She has been managing the family trust portfolio with notable success since then." My mother's face drained of its confident color, leaving her pale. "What family trust portfolio?" she whispered, as though hearing of it for the very first time. Patricia consulted her papers with calm authority. "The Thompson Family Trust, established by your late father, currently valued at approximately $23.7 million. All distributions are provided at the trustee's discretion." The shock hit them like a physical blow. I decided to soften the blow just slightly. "The monthly allowances you've all been receiving," I said softly but firmly, "come directly from the trust. And yes, those decisions have been mine." "This is absurd," Lila snapped, her usual veneer of confidence cracking at the edges. "We would have been told about something this significant. There's no way you've been the one controlling our finances." Patricia retrieved another document, this one a certified copy of the trust agreement. The trust clearly stipulates that authority passes to the youngest child upon reaching 25. The expectation is that the trustee supports family members at their discretion. Dad's hands trembled as he scanned the legal text, his face paling as his worst fears were confirmed. This says Sophie Thompson has been the sole trustee with full discretionary authority for 3 years, he muttered almost to himself. I nodded calmly. "Yes, for 3 years I've been overseeing every monthly allowance, every investment, every distribution. all while you assumed I was scraping by on a nonprofit salary. At that moment, my phone rang, vibrating across the polished table. The screen displayed a number from the family's private banking division. "Excuse me," I said, answering the call without looking away from their stunned faces. "Miss Thompson," came the voice on the line. "This is Marcus Lee from First National Private Banking. We've received your denial for this month's allowance disbursements. Would you like us to place holds on the associated accounts?" "Yes," I replied steadily, aware of every pair of eyes fixed on me. "Proceed with the holds until further notice." "Understood," he confirmed. "All automatic transfers are suspended pending your review." I ended the call and turned my gaze back to my family, their expressions a blend of disbelief, fear, and dawning comprehension. "That was the bank," I explained evenly. "They've just confirmed your monthly allowances are officially paused." "Monthly allowances?" Mom whispered faintly, her composure unraveling. Patricia, ever the professional, double-checked her tablet. "Adrian Thompson receives $15,000 monthly for business and living expenses. Lila Thompson receives $12,000 for lifestyle maintenance. Mrs. Margaret Reynolds, $8,000 for discretionary spending. And Mr. Victor Reynolds, $18,000 for household and personal costs." The figures hit like financial thunderbolts, each one landing with crushing weight. "This is outrageous," Dad exploded, though his tone carried panic more than authority. "Even if this paperwork is legitimate, I built this wealth. I managed these finances for 30 years. I deserve control over this money." "You didn't build this wealth," I corrected calmly. "Grandfather did. He designed the trust with a specific purpose, passing control to the person who demonstrated both financial skill and a commitment to helping others. My nonprofit work wasn't a mistake. It was the qualification." Patricia nodded. "The trust language explicitly requires the successor trustee to show evidence of financial management expertise and dedication to charitable causes." Adrian, frantically tapping on his phone, was likely watching his transactions fail in real time. His voice rose in desperation. "Sophie, this is insane. My business expenses, my client entertainment, my operational costs, everything relies on that distribution. And you just told us dependence on aid had to end." Lila's hands shook as she opened her banking app, her face draining. "My cards are declining. My spa appointments, my shopping orders, everything's bouncing." "That's exactly what happens when automatic payments are frozen," I explained patiently. "The same way you all wanted it to happen to me." As if on cue, my phone buzzed again with another call. This time it was the Trust's investment division. I answered, putting the phone on speaker. "Miss Thompson," a calm voice announced. "This is Natalie Brooks from Portfolio Management. We need to discuss the Trust's real estate holdings." Jennifer's voice came through the speakerphone with quiet urgency. "Should we continue covering property taxes and maintenance for the family's real estate holdings?" I let my eyes wander across the study, over the ornate bookshelves and oil paintings, then out toward the grounds of the very estate where we sat. "This estate, the vacation homes, the investment properties, the commercial real estate," I said aloud. "They're all trust assets. All of them require constant funding and management." I leaned closer to the phone. "What happens if we halt maintenance and tax payments?" Jennifer's reply was immediate. "Property tax defaults would begin within 60 days. After that, you'd face maintenance deterioration, insurance lapses, and, eventually, foreclosure risks on leveraged properties." The words struck like a hammer. My mother's face went pale as Patricia added with calm precision, "This estate itself is owned by the trust. Sophie has been covering all household costs, property upkeep, and family living expenses for the last 3 years." Dad, now visibly shaken, was speaking in frantic half-sentences to his banker and accountant over the phone, struggling to understand how his financial reality had turned upside down. I caught snippets. Successor provisions, trustee authority, Sophie's control. Before his words dissolved into panic, I sat back watching them unravel. "The very family members who just told me no more support," I said steadily, "are only now realizing you're the ones who've been receiving it, every last bit of it." Another call buzzed through, this time from the household management company. I answered and placed it on speaker. "Miss Thompson, the domestic staff payroll is due tomorrow. Should we proceed with payments for housekeeping, gardening, and maintenance staff? I glanced at my family, their horrified faces staring back at me. Hold all staff payments pending a full budget review, I instructed. Understood, the caller confirmed. All staff will be notified their positions are under review. Lila broke into tears. Sophie, you can't fire the household staff. Mom depends on them. This house needs constant upkeep. The same way I depended on you all, I said. Until 15 minutes ago when you decided to cut me off. Remember what Mom said. Time to sink or swim like every other adult. Adrian's business phone rang nonstop. Vendors, clients, and partners were already discovering his funds had been frozen. His face twisted with panic. Dad abandoned his usual commanding tone and instead pleaded, Sophie, please. We can work this out. We're family. We need to support each other. Yes, I agreed softly. We are family, and as family, I've supported you for 3 years without complaint. Until today, when you tried to strip away the very support you've been unknowingly living on. Patricia slid a detailed financial report across the table. The trust has thrived under Sophie's leadership. 18% annual returns, a diversified portfolio, sustainable distributions. She's managed it exceptionally well. It was sustainable, I corrected, because the model assumed unity and mutual respect. Clearly, those assumptions need revisiting. I looked at them one by one, their dawning realization plane, their futures, homes, allowances, lifestyles, all hinged on the sibling they dismissed as financially reckless. The new terms are as follows. I announced, my voice firm. Dad, your allowance is reduced to $12,000 monthly, with expense reporting required. Mom, you'll receive $6,000 with oversight on discretionary spending. Adrian and Lila, you'll each receive $8,000, subject to quarterly reviews. Adrian protested instantly. Those amounts won't cover our expenses. Then you'll need to adjust your lifestyle, I said evenly. Exactly as you once advised me to do. Live within your means. Patricia handed me an updated agreement. In addition, mandatory financial counseling and budgeting programs will now apply to all beneficiaries. Financial counseling? Lila sobbed. You're treating us like children. No, I corrected. I'm treating you like adults who need to learn responsibility, just as you said I needed. Dad's hollow eyes scanned the trust documents. And this estate? What about our home? It will be maintained, I said carefully, as long as beneficiaries respect the trustee's authority. Hostility toward me could trigger reviews of housing allowances. Mom clutched my arm, her voice cracking. Sophie, we're sorry. We didn't know. Please, forgive us. Now you know, I replied gently but firmly. And now there are formal agreements that reflect reality, not assumptions. Patricia finalized the signatures. These terms are effective immediately. Written copies will follow. As my family reluctantly signed, the ancestral portraits seemed to watch silently, bearing witness to the shift in power. One last note, I said as Patricia packed up. The nonprofit work you mocked? It's expanding. I'm establishing a $5 million charitable foundation that reduces family distributions moving forward. The announcement detonated like a bomb. What they thought was untouchable inheritance was being redirected to the very cause they dismissed. The same family who declared, "We're not your bank anymore," I concluded, standing tall, just discovered that I am their bank, their landlord, their employer, and their financial future. By tomorrow, reduced allowances, enforced budgets, and financial counseling would begin. The sister they underestimated was, in truth, the cornerstone holding their entire world together.